On election night, 1980, I threw a party for some friends in Washington, and we anticipated sitting up until the wee hours when the winner would be known. The hors d'oeuvres were ready, the ice was on its way, and that night, at my party, Carter was gone before we had ice and before the people in Hawaii had lunch. It didn't take long for the landslide to happen, and the Reagan era had begun. On the Mark Russell comedy specials, we followed the plot very carefully. 1980 was the year of Reagan's Are You Better Off Now Than You Were 4 years ago, Jimmy Carter's amazing killer rabbit adventure, and the newest word in the English language was Ayatollah. The year is 1980, so let's join the campaign, already in progress. I got advice for all those Republican candidates. They're not interested in my advice. I give it to them free of charge. Candidates pay high money to hire these image advisors and these advertising agencies, and I can give them the same kind of advice. You take Ronald Reagan. Now, one of Reagan's acknowledged problem is his age. Well, it shouldn't be. He's got the old people already. He should do his best to broaden his base and try and get a guest shot on the Muppets, you see. Sure. John Conley. Now, I submit to you that many people think of Conley as a riverboat gambler holding a poker hand. Well, he's got to shed that image. He should start campaigning in a floppy sweater and an open-throat shirt, you know, and a dune buggy, and try and get an endorsement from Donnie and Marie Osmond. Now, Howard Baker, his problem is just the opposite. He suffers from this illusion of innocence, so what he should do is start gambling on a riverboat. Dark glasses would help, and he should try and get an endorsement from Robert Vesco. Sure, free of charge, I give thee. The same goes for Robert Dole, right? That nice guy image isn't going to work. Come on, we all loved him better when he was a gut fighter, right? He should get that hatchet out of the hock shop and try and get an endorsement from Don Rickles. That's the answer. Jerry Ford. What is with that coy routine? He ought to hang up the golf clubs, get into the fight. He can face up to Carter. He can get very tough with Carter. Ford's campaign slogan should be, nobody sent in 3,000 troops at Nixon's pardon. Twice in 1 week, President Carter started making speeches, and he would say, well, at least I am calm in a crisis. And then some people thought that that was a veiled reference to Chappaquiddick. Well, you remember what happened. Carter wrote a letter to Kennedy saying, no, that's not what I meant. Well, my sources have revealed exactly what is in that letter. Dear Teddy, whoops, did it again, didn't I? Sorry about that panic in a crisis line. I was referring to how calmly I'm taking the Russians in Cuba. Boy, this job is no picnic. Whoops, did it again. Believe me, Ted, I'm not going to make a habit of this. I'm sure as the campaign takes shape, we'll get along swimmingly. Darn it. There I go again. I think you'll agree we both can take the high road, whoops, in this campaign. Putting aside personalities and concentrating on driving home, whoops, our program. I think no matter how the campaign turns out, we each have the responsibility of bridging, whoops, the gap between the people and the government. I'm not a quitter, and it's my intention to stay in the fight. Remember what Harry Truman said, if you can't stand the grapes, stay out of Martha's Vineyard. Whoops, sincerely yours, the President. Roger Mudd held a very historic interview with Teddy Kennedy about 2 months ago. You remember it was on a Sunday night. It was on opposite a movie about General Douglas MacArthur. I wanted to watch both shows. I kept switching back and forth. One scene there was General MacArthur wading ashore in the Philippines. I switched channels. There was Teddy doing the same. Take another candidate, John Connally. Now, Connally is picked up, I think he's picked up a little bit since Saturday, especially with Reagan not showing up. Connally, tall Texan, symbolizes strength to many, many people. That's the syndrome of the 80 campaign, I believe. Peace through height. And reminds a lot of people of Lyndon Johnson, who himself was a big man, a forceful man. and brings up the old Yellow Rose of Texas syndrome. There's a fella rose in Texas, and he dreams of being great. He's a tall and rangy sodbuster in the mold of the Lone Star State. And he seeks the nomination with a massive campaign push. So cast your vote for rough and ready to gun George Bush. Fully tall in the saddle, Georgie walking with the cowboy strut. He learned to rope a heifer on a ranch in Connecticut. Was a wrangler up in Greenwich where he smoked a big cheroot. Then he hopped the stage in Fairfield in a Brooks Brothers three-piece suit. We're going to conduct now our famous Buffalo poll. We did this in, there are many of them here, good music. Anyway, so you recall, in 1976 we did this. We're going to start them. We're going to keep doing them between now and the election on our shows. So let's start the first one off of the election year. All right, now, how many in here? Right now. Would vote for Ronald Reagan. Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. We on? Moving on, if the election were to be held tomorrow, how many vote for John Connally? Okay, Connally 2, Reagan nothing. The election will be held tomorrow, how many vote for Howard Baker? Okay, I'm sure he'd be glad to meet the 4 of you. Gosh, this is unexciting. If the election... Cheer up, there are only 14 more, gang. The election will be held tomorrow. How many vote for George Bush? Bush ahead so far with the Republicans? I'd say so. I have to. The election will be held tomorrow. How many vote for Harold Stassen? Always the put-ons. If the election will be held tomorrow, how many would vote for Benjamin Fernandez? Philip Crane? Thank you, Mrs. Crane. Discipline. The election... Should have muzzled her husband. If the election will be held tomorrow... Order, please. If the election will be held tomorrow... How many vote for Jerry Brown? Do not be misled. Do not be misled by the relative silence. You see, many of the brown people have their own ways of communicating metaphysically. The election will be held tomorrow. I'm going to vote for Teddy Kennedy. I don't know what has happened. Do you believe him? What has happened? I think Kennedy's campaign has gone according to plan. Right, Carter's plan. I mean, a couple of months ago, he seemed to be doing so very, very well. He had the stature, the appeal of a president, and then he did a stupid thing, you know. He announced his candidacy. The election will be held tomorrow. I'm going to vote for Jimmy Carter. How many were for Jimmy Carter 2 months ago?